I'm Cody.
I'm Angela.
And we are Untethered. What's going on with the coffee and cream and candles?
We're celebrating. We're celebrating our 3-month anniversary full-time RV.
Yep. We've been on the road for about 3 months now, and we were kind of driving and talking the other day and thinking about some things that we've learned since we got here. And so we kind of wanted to put together like a 10 list of what we've learned since we've been full-time on the road. So I think the first thing that I would say is that we're a lot busier than we expected to be.
Yes. I think you do a lot of little jobs more often.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Yeah, you're doing some trade-offs. You know, I think a lot of people think when you go full-time on the road, it's a lot of sitting in the camper and hanging out under the awning, watching a campfire, or going on journeys or whatever the case may be. But there is a lot that goes into it. I try to look at it in time trade-offs. You know, maybe instead of mowing the yard, I'm wiping down the outside or doing a spray wax or doing some preventative maintenance. But you definitely are busier than I thought I would be.
Yeah.
It seems there's always something to do. There's a lot less on the inside to keep clean than in a house, but it's a smaller space, so you're doing it more often. So definitely busier than I expected. All right, what's next?
Everything is made cheap. Don't come into a camper, even a new one, expecting it to be perfect and things not to go wrong. I'm like a bull in a china shop. We had to have a couple of conversations of stop jerking on the cabinet doors and stop slamming the cabinet doors shut. I'm just used to stuff just working. I move very, very fast in everything I do.
And those are just a couple of small things. You know, Grand Design makes a good RV, but it's still an RV. Small things like the trim, the floors, I figure would probably get damaged pretty easy. So just, that's our dog. This is what happens when we leave the window open at all. We usually have to sit with all the shade shut because she just looks for something to growl about.
Look, there's birds out there.
I know. But yeah, you know, you got to keep in mind there are cheaper materials. The floors are vinyl, so rocks in the shoes are going to tear stuff up.
Good point, yeah.
And everything's really sensitive to water. So even though this all looks like nice wood, it's not wood. Well,
not wood.
The table might be wood. The rest of it's some kind of pressed wood with the sticker over it. Let's just get that out of the way right now. And that kind of stuff is not water friendly. Everything is cheap and you should behave accordingly.
Me. Next.
Maintenance. Back to we're busier than we ever expected, but there is a lot of maintenance stuff, and your owner's manual for your RV is going to give you some guidance to what you need to do. We've had a couple of different RVs in the past, and I will say that Grand Design gives you a nice big, the black bag we call it, with a book for everything, each individual component like ACs, refrigerators, stoves, and then Grand Design themselves has their reflection book, in our case, that kind of covers everything bumper to bumper.
And it's pretty extensive, right?
It's pretty extensive. I've had a couple of small problems that I was able to troubleshoot and fix just using the book. Mm-hmm. But just your basic maintenance, you know, every trip I'm checking the tire pressures manually. I have TPMS. I like that double check of seeing it with my own eyes with the manual gauge.
Tightening screws.
Just the other day, one of the screws on the mirror back behind us, we pulled into a rest stop to use the bathroom and walk in, and there's the screw sticking out that far, just out of nowhere. But you're always looking for things that are loose. I'll get down in the basement and look at all my wiring and stuff, and you've seen that in other videos where we've had to crawl under there and do some basic troubleshooting. Checking for loose wires. You're always watching for water leaks. And then the trailer part of the RV. There's just a lot of maintenance that needs to be done. With that, every RV dealership that I've talked to or heard about is several weeks out. We have a few things that we need addressed, and talked to Grand Design yesterday, and we're looking out into November to get in. So that's our dog again. So it does help a lot if you're reasonably handy, and Grand Design's great to walk you through some troubleshooting, and there's been quite a few things that we've been able to fix on our own. Most didn't even cost us anything, it was just doing it.
Yeah.
So it helps to be reasonably handy, but there's always something to tinker with. Let's talk about trip planning.
Let's do. We both kind of have our own piece of that world.
Yep.
Food, we find it a lot easier for us to prepare a little bit of food, have it in a cooler in the outside fridge. It's a little easier for us to get to. We make sure that we don't drink a lot of caffeine or sodas, things like that, but we do keep caffeinated drinks, energy drinks on hand. And then we have the food so that we're snacking. We kind of found that if we were waiting for the perfect opportunity for us to be able to put the slide out and get to the fridge, we were just buying a lot of gas station food.
Yeah.
And from a cost standpoint and a calorie standpoint, it was something that didn't really work well for us. We like it, but we really had to look ahead a little better on that end. And then you have your stuff that you go through too.
Yeah, I have my end of it, and admittedly, sometimes I do better than others. It seems like lately we've been more on a wing it plan. We got really creative at staying at free spots overnight, especially when it was cooler, or maybe when it's even warmer, and we run the generator and one AC. It did bite us on a recent trip where we had planned to do about 350 miles in a day, and we ended up doing about 550 before we could find a good place to stop and boondock for the night. I'll kind of run the route on Google, and then I'll use an app called Truck Maps that kind of gives you the trucker map, because we're tall and we're long and we're heavy, so figure if a big truck can go there, so can we. Take a look at the route. And then we use Allstays Plus to try to pick spots along the route. It's very helpful with fuel stops and things like that. And then obviously finding campgrounds. We found some really nice campgrounds in some places that weren't very well advertised, but they happened to be on Allstays. All right, what's next, babe?
Next one is hooking up. Fifth wheel was completely new to us. We were not good at it. We were not good at it. I still don't know that I'm confident to say that we're good at it, but we are starting to kind of learn it. We're learning those niches, and then so we're hitting them more than we're not. But at first that was a huge panic for us. We thought, can we even do this? It was bad.
Yeah, and I grew up on a farm. I've pulled almost every kind of trailer. I'd never actually pulled a fifth wheel, and the quality of the ride, if you're looking into a fifth wheel, and if you like the trailer and you like the truck you're going to pull it with, I'd say go for it, because the ride quality is better.
Oh yeah.
You don't get the wind sway. The whole thing is just a better driving experience. And then for us, and obviously you get a lot more room on the inside. But hooking up was a lot more difficult than I thought it would be. And part of our problem is we do have an automatic sliding fifth wheel hitch. So if you don't hit it dead on, you can kick the plate around and get in a bind. We actually did get it stuck sideways one time and had to fix that.
Yeah.
But after 5,000 miles on the road, 3 months with this, we're hitting it on the first shot more than we thought. Don't panic, take your time, slow up. And I will say I don't miss having to put the stabilizer bars on the hitch and mess with that every time.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Good riddance to all that for us.
Slow up.
Yeah, slow down, take your time, don't get frustrated. I'm sure everybody loves seeing that. It's good with the coffee, though.
It is good. I think you should take the next one, which is power and temp management. That's kind of your world.
The biggest thing for us is we did spend some time in Arkansas and did about 2 weeks with the generator. And 4,500 watt generators are only going to want to run one air conditioner. And so that was a little bit tricky. It's kind of turn the AC off so we can run the microwave, turn the microwave off so she can dry her hair.
And there were some things that didn't like the generator surges.
Yeah.
So
you definitely want to look into an inverter generator, which is what we have. What I've read and researched on is some of the old school, for lack of a better term, generators. They do surge up and down a lot, and that can fry electronics. So a good inverter generator is going to level out those power waves and not surge, say, your MacBook Pro that we rely on to do these videos. So that's really important. Temperature management, especially in the wintertime. I have put the small temp sensors in different parts of the trailer. One in the fridge, one in the bedroom, one in the basement. Got them kind of scattered out, and it all reads out on one screen, because with our camper and with a lot of campers out there that have the Arctic packages, you've got an enclosed underbelly, and ours is heated and ducted. But the problem is if that basement gets below freezing, you're going to have a bad night in the wintertime. So it's worked out pretty good for me to be able to keep an eye on that. Also, your refrigerator. We have a Norcold fridge, and a lot of people experience issues with those. I will say I don't like it as good as the Dometic we had in our last trailer. But the temperature does seem to fluctuate with the outside temp, so we're constantly having to adjust the cold down or adjust the temp up. So
or if we're in it a lot.
Or if we're in and out of it a lot, but especially when it's really hot outside. It seems to have a hard time maintaining temp. So good to have those sensors around everywhere. Amazon has them. It's like 4 sensors and a readout for like $30. Next on the list, make priorities part of your plan.
What are your priorities? The gym, the workouts are a big part of our world. It helps us kind of get going in the morning. We like Planet Fitness. We had a little break in there, but we have used them for years, and the great thing about them is their locations, and they have a lot of locations. So a lot of times when we're looking for a location and we have a few different options, we may look and go, well, how close is the gym?
Yeah.
And that's important to us. Or if we are lucky enough to find a campground that has a gym, we haven't seen them as much, or we don't spend the money to find those particular campgrounds, but we have lucked out.
Well, you know, we've got a bench and some basic weights and some mats, so when we get to places that we can't get to a Planet Fitness, we just work out outdoors, and it works out fine. When you're thinking about your priorities and your routines, part of your day-to-day life, you know, obviously the gym's a big one for us. I really like to cook. We have a travel Traeger now that works really good for us to smoke things. Think about that stuff. If you're like me and you're pretty hands-on and you like to fix things yourself, where are you going to put all your tools so that you can handle things yourself? You know, for me, it works for me. I bought Milwaukee pack-out boxes and lined them in the bed of the truck and one in the basement. So I kind of have a good assortment of tools to handle most of the jobs we're going to run into. But definitely make priorities a part of your plan, and just know that you don't have to give up your everyday routines or the things you like to do because you're going to go full-time RV.
Laundry has also been a little bit of an adjustment for us. Going to a laundromat versus being able to do it through the week, do a little bit here and there. Now we actually plan laundry days where we can knock it out. We go together and we try to be as efficient as possible with the laundromats. Sometimes the campgrounds have them, sometimes they don't.
Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't.
Sometimes you're mooch docking and you can use a friend's or family's laundry, but it also takes time. Yeah, thanks, Mom. But laundry is also an adjustment. Make sure you have quarters on hand. Sometimes the quarter machines don't work. So it's just little things like that. Nothing that's a big deal. It's just something that was new to our routine that we had to adjust to. So the next one is separating your workspace from your home space. This is actually stolen. We heard someone online that did work from home, and maybe even some people that worked from an RV that said it's important that you separate that space. You're in a very small, confined area, and you don't want those two to mentally, I think, to mingle. So we took that into practice. We both have our workspaces. I have my desk area. He works from the table. It just works well for both of us. And then at the end of the day, when we're ready to shut it down, we close everything, we put it away into a laptop bag, and we take it out of the room. That way, we transition from work to home. And I think mentally that has worked really, really well for us. Next one, space. It's okay to take space.
Yep.
It's okay to take your own space. It's okay to, one, communicate. I think we had to have some very real conversations to say, hey, I love you and we're comfortable, but every once in a while, you got to get out of a space. I'm going to go for a walk and just have a little me time and have a little quiet time. You're around each other 24/7. We work together. We travel together. We're around each other all the time. So it's okay to get away from that and clear your head and just communicate it. I think once we talked through, there were a few things that were funny to me that you were a little uncomfortable with. And so we just talked through it, and we're like, well, that's funny, because I didn't think about giving you the space
Right.
while you're shaving or whatever. So just talk through it. It's okay. I think it's perfectly natural to need or want that, and it works for us.
Don't be afraid to ask for help. Not everything's a one-person job.
Yeah.
When it comes time to spray wax the entire trailer, I'll ask you for help, and you'll, maybe through gritted teeth, come out there with the big bucket and rags, and we start wiping stuff down. Or maybe...
Let's not get crazy.
It happens. We have it on video. Communicate, know what you need, ask for space or take space when you need it, and don't be afraid to ask for help. And finally, cost.
I think we need to touch on this softly. I know eventually we do run a lot of data and we're tracking a lot of things. But keep in mind, we're still learning some of this, and we haven't stressed too much about the very first part of this, because priorities goes back to priorities. We want to learn our routine. We want to make sure the important stuff's taken care of, like work. And then from there, we're going to dial down that cost a little bit. We've always kind of practiced those annual reviews and talk through. So right now, we're not stressing too much about it.
We knew coming into this that the first month or two was going to be expensive. We were selling our house, we still had a mortgage, we still had 2 trucks, we still had a lot of things. Things are starting to normalize a little bit, but for that reason, I really haven't tracked costs down to the penny pretty hard. One thing that I have tracked and have set kind of a goal to is a nightly campground budget. So I log every day we stay in a campground and what's our monthly cost, and we kind of look at it as what's our monthly cost versus what our mortgage was, because that's kind of the trade-off there. But we do track our daily campground spend and kind of offset that against our mortgage, and I think we've hit budget 2 out of 3 months so far. And but I will say, as far as cost goes, you know what the big ones are: fuel and insurance and campground fees. If you're looking to get into this to save a ton of money, I would caution you to rethink your strategy. If you're going to do it because you want to, do it because you love to travel. It's definitely not something that you can just sell your house, get an RV, and just be rolling in free flow cash. And depending on how you do it, it could even be more expensive.
Yep.
For us, it does save us some money, but it's not life-changing. We're doing this because we want to get out and travel and see family and stuff like that. So honestly, our goal was, if we could break even, we're happy. And remember that every day is not a vacation. You can't go eat a $150 meal just because you're in South Dakota and there's a cool restaurant on a Tuesday night.
Why not?
We really enjoy the free stuff out on the road. We love national parks. We love doing walking tours and outdoor hikes and stuff like that cost nothing. And I think that really helps versus going to say a touristy spot that might charge you $40 to get in, and it's a bore. Do it because you want to do it first.
Yes.
Do it because you're passionate about it and because you enjoy it and your family enjoys it first. Then reassess your cost, and if you can save some money along the way, and I believe most people can, it's a bonus. There's levels to it. You can go as big or as small as you want. The bottom line is get out there and do it because you want it.
Well said, Johnson.
Thank you guys for watching. We are Untethered. We hope that you share and like and subscribe and all those good things. We really enjoy bringing this content, and it's kind of a video diary for us to show what we do, and we hope you guys enjoy it and join us on the journey. See you next week.